control. At this time, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson? Mr. Gus?
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Winkler?
Here.
Okay, let's stand and we'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to come before this district this evening to discuss the business and make decisions in the best interest of our students and staff. Please take care of our community and continue to guard us, God, and thank you for your providential grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Brings us to...
Approval of agenda?
Yeah.
It's backwards, but...
I'm sorry?
I said it's backwards.
Oh, I see it now.
I'm gonna move that.
We don't have no amendments, do we?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda. I second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? I'm sorry. Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Motion carries, and we are on Superintendent's Cabinet Report.
All right, thank you. I have a few brief things before I turn it over to the cabinet. It's quite a large cabinet here this evening, so try to be as brief as I can. I just wanted to update you on the building projects. Bill from the Ohio Facilities Commission. I'm expecting an email from him in the next few days to give some meeting dates that he would be available. He is not able to do them in person, but we would probably, our team here would meet and do a Zoom meeting with him. So when I get those dates, I will reach out. I think, Mr. Winkler, you said you were wanting to be in on that, included in that.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You've worked with him in the past.
Yep.
Yeah, so when I get those dates, I will forward that. I'll forward it to all board members, but when I get it, I'll get it to you.
Okay.
A brief update on the multi-purpose building at Monroe Central. Mrs. Rubel has been teaching all of her ag science classes in there from day one. She utilizes the building from first through sixth periods. Mr. Mazzina, our new athletic trainer and exercise science teacher, utilizes it during 7th, 8th, and 9th periods. Mr. Semple informed me that the weight equipment is installed and ready for use. The cardio equipment has been delivered and will be installed in its proper location very soon. I think Mr. Jules is working on that. Mr. Ishii, the athletic director, is beginning to work on a schedule for practices to begin once the winter sports season start for a rotating basis on their practice schedule. The baskets for the basketball team have been ordered, but they have not yet been delivered.
Baskets?
For the basketball.
Oh, hoops.
Yeah, hoops. Yeah.
I'm thinking longer burger.
Basketball hoops. Okay.
Put me in on that order.
Yeah. And I think Mr. Rowan might elaborate on this, but I just wanted to update you also. If he has anything further to say, he's more than welcome. We've had discussion with our principals and ADs. We're trying to begin working on protocols and procedures for our youth sports to begin using our facilities in the winter, because I know that we have a lot of them in there wanting to practice in our facilities, our gyms, multiple gyms. And our principals and ADs are working on those procedures here soon. Okay, hopefully we'll have something.
Are we going to have 7th and 8th grade basketball?
Yes.
And then we're going to let veterans use the gyms too.
The youth
3, 4, and 5, 6. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we're working on right now. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to get it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. That's very good.
Yeah. All right, you're welcome. All right, For a few of you that haven't met, Suzanne Holland, food director.
Hi,
Right.
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I got the floor?
It's all yours, I
All
guess.
right, awesome. Just want to kind of give you an update of what we've been doing these past couple of months. We've been really, really busy, but got a lot accomplished. We've started off really building our team. We had a 2-day all-cook staff meeting in August that we've got nothing but great reviews back from, a lot of feedback. It was, the kids have learned, not the kids, the cooks have learned more in those 2 days than what they had learned probably the entire time that a lot of them have been here. So they were really, really excited about that. And out of that, we decided to have monthly PD meetings with our head cooks. Our first meeting was talking about some of the USDA paper requirements, daily production records. Our cooks had never had that experience. It was always done for them. This is required paperwork, so we've been working through that, getting the paperwork filled out correctly. It's going great. Our second one, just the other day, we talked about preparedness in 2 parts. One, COVID. How do we respond? Belleville was an example when the school closed. How do we still get the kids fed? And then the second thing is our kitchen response to an emergency. So we all know CPR is required, but what actually happens when the head cook goes down? You have two cooks, head cook goes down, and you got children in the line. That's reality. So they're working on it this next month, talk about it in November, so that we have a uniform plan for emergencies that come along in the kitchen area and how we respond to them. We learned that USDA requires all kitchen personnel to have 4 trainings. This training is HACCP, which is a safety training, civil rights, CPR, and I always say it wrong. Thank you. Well, we also found out that all the people who run the POS machines or the point of service machines, or all those subs, are required to have the training also. So we have gone ahead and had 1 training just the other night to get some of those people the certifications. We're going to do another one in January 14th, really trying to get a deeper pool for our subs for the kitchen so that they meet all the criteria. September 14th, we applied for a waiver. This was the seamless summer option waiver. This waiver and the summer foods school program. Those 2 waivers are the only ones that can be used in an emergency. So on September 14th, we went ahead and filed for those waivers, which what it basically did was it allowed us to feed all the kids. So that's when we're feeding all of them. Everybody gets breakfast and everybody gets lunch now through December 31st or until USDA runs out of funds. So hopefully we'll get plenty of notice if that happens. I also applied for 4 more waivers. These are area eligibility, it's hours, parent pickup, and multiple meals. And what that pretty much does is it allows us that if the school district shuts down or any building shuts down, that we can provide meals for kids 5 or 7 days a week. We can have the parents pick them up. We can deliver it to them. It gives us a lot of options. So we're just trying to keep these kids fed and keep our claims, reimbursement claims up. Let's see here. So in Belleville, when it was closed down, we did serve 50 children, which was 500 meals that went out in 1 day for there. We are working on creating a pre-registration type plan for the summer school extension so that parents can sign up in advance, give us all their family members, right? And they can just pull up with their number, get their item, and kind of move on. So not so much the delivery to the areas, but we're looking at the very far out areas, very rural, and seeing where we can partner some places to get those meals out to those families. I submitted a grant for kitchen equipment, 5 grants that totaled about $84,000. I put a grant in to replace the dishwasher at Swiss Hill, which was 45 years old. 2 or 3 ovens, a walk-in freezer at Skyview. So I would hopefully have an answer by November if we receive any of those grants. We've processed almost 400 free and reduced price applications. And with growing our team, these ladies are, there's men on too, but they're just doing some incredible things. So they are now kind of pulling together. I've got 3 of our head cooks that have experience with the seamless summer option. They're coming together to say, this is how you prep, this is how you prepare, and this is how you deliver so that we can get that plan right and in place. I've got head cooks that are now writing standard operating procedures for their kitchen, for their head cooks and their assistant cooks. So we are allowing them to take ownership and just kind of help them get to the paperwork part. So they seem to be doing well. The last part is commodities. We started off with a balance of $53,000 in commodities, and we are down to $35,000, which is great. So that means we're not using district money for product. And then we have a DOD fruit and vegetable entitlement, and that started at $12,000, and we got that down to $7,000 is what's left. So they have given us another $20,000 of reallocated commodity dollars, not 20,000, 20% more, that we can just buy single process brown box items. And then we're working really hard. There was a lot of food left over, and we need to get our freezers and our storage areas cleared out so that we can take advantage of the entitlement dollars for the commodity. So an example would be if you have a box of broccoli that I can get from commodities, that box is $3. If I go to GFS and I buy that exact same box, it's $40. So when you start looking at the number of times our cycle menus repeat, number of kids that we're feeding, that is really big money. And so we really are trying to take advantage of the commodities to, bring that revenue in with the participation and less district dollars for the food.
Now, you forgot one thing.
What did I forget, sir?
Okay, when I come to you over donating the food to the food banks, you guys worked on it, and I see on item 8 here tonight, we have it to approve.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you.
Yes.
The food banks will thank you.
What our hope is that we have a lot of the breakfast items that are left over, and I've asked that the cooks work with their communities to identify the 501(c), that they can donate that to. What's in the freezer, which is a large refrigerator trucks are going to have to come get, that might be something more out of Marietta, of a local food bank. But I want them to build those relationships with the community, and this will be the perfect opportunity.
But it's got to be a 501(c), right?
Correct.
That policy's on the agenda this evening.
Yes, it is.
Approve that.
Yes,
in order
ma'am.
For us to donate.
I'm sure hoping, okay? We all got
Yeah.
our fingers crossed.
It is.
It's on there.
It's on there.
Thanks for putting it on.
Yes. Thank you. Ms. Connor?
Just to add a little bit to the OFCC's Facilities Commission, they are sending out that survey next week to Rob, and we'll go to our EMIS coordinator to fill in the October enrollment. Once they get that, they will review it, and then we'll do the Zoom meeting. They will help us put out the RFQ, the qualifications for an architect. Then they'll start putting the plans together for those additions to the elementary school. They're probably within a 2-week frame of getting all that together. Also, we finished the interviews for the courier. I think that's on your agenda tonight. We finished the interviews Wednesday for the coordinator, and I think Jason will be working on finishing that up for next week. And we're working on the MOU with the Robert C. Byrd Institute, that they will provide us some trainers for the adult program, which I know that Jason addressed that. And then also, we have the food donation thing on this agenda here later.
All right, thank you.
Anything on the road at Skyview? You hear anything yet about that? Have you
No, I
got any
just-
bids or anything?
I think Jason's waiting on,
Jason.
Steve.
Steve.
Okay, he has no bids yet?
Yeah, he's got a
He's
couple
waiting,
bids, he's waiting on
in
the
the
third one.
supposed to be getting back.
Okay, how about the, Monroe Central building, is it in use?
Well,
What's that?
That was vendor today, waiting for the second vendor to come in and look at it.
Thank you. How about the Monroe Central project, building, is it usable now? Or they got it open?
Which one?
The new one?
Yeah, so it's-
Yeah, I just said everything that they're using it for.
Okay, and then how about, River Field House? What do we there?
Mr. Romick will be updating on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, but I wanna thank you for, letting me know when the interviews were, let me sit in with you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for setting in, we
Yeah,
appreciate that.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's chipmunks,
All right.
remember?
Mr. Rubel, anything?
Yeah, give an update on adult education. We've started, we're in the second week of the adult education program. Chemical operator, we got 6 students. Everything we're hearing from the teachers, going really good. They're still scheduled to do, some training on the, equipment, and, the actual vendor though is in Canada. So once they open up the border, they'll be able to come in and finish up their training, so we're happy with that. We're still planning on an STNA, and then we're starting a welding program in January, and heavy equipment in the spring.
Working on GED.
Yes, and we're also working on getting a, space for, GED, the system, our students, as well as adult education students.
Thank you.
Oh, are you planning on doing your budget?
Yeah.
You need,
Well, I
to-
didn't know.
you need to do it now.
Yeah, okay. I know before, last board meeting, we did not show you what we projected the actual income compared to our expenses. So with those programs, starting in
Did you get one,
January
Sarah?
in the
I
spring,
did, thank you.
we're expecting tuition, to be about $33,000. We're also going to be getting some grants, we're hoping. They'll offset some of our costs, for the welding and other adult ed programs, totaling, $175. And, a little bit about what Linda was talking about, working with Robert C. Byrd Institute and being a satellite campus for them. We are hoping to have companies in the area come to us, work out of our lab, and also be trained by Robert C. Byrd, so we'll be able to get some fees for those companies, which reflect the $10,000, okay, for a total of $218. Again, we're hoping at the end of the year, we're still in the positive, about $118,000. Questions?
Does this cover administration costs and everything?
No, that's for teachers and,
Yeah, but I mean, teachers, that's covered in here, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rubel.
All right.
Mr. Cosner, anything?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to draw your attention to the item number 7 on the consent agenda. This is a memorandum of understanding. It's a collaborative effort between 4 agencies, number 7 on the consent. It's between the Ohio Valley ESC, Switzerland, Monroe County Board of Development and Disabilities, and also GMN Head Start, and Early Head Start. And what this is, it's a collaboration to promote speech services for Early Head Start, birth to 3 services, and in our preschool programs. And what we're doing is trying to increase early interventions before they get to our kindergartens, so that we can reach some of those kids very early on if they're having speech difficulties, so we can create these interventions. That, of course, would help, but we need these other agencies. There's no cost involved, it's just a collaborative effort between us, working together, because we use their facilities in some of these collaborations. But that's basically what that's about. So we have to get all parties to agree to that, and Mr. Brooks over at the ESC is collaborating that and getting all the signatures together for that. Any questions on that MOU? Okay, the other thing, we currently have 34 students with disabilities that are on our remote learning plans. Now, that's the Blue Sky and the district plans. they're getting their required minutes because the parents are bringing them in for services. They're getting their specially designed instruction, they're getting their OT and their PT and speech services. So that is working out very well. However, we have probably more than half of these students that have requested that they want to return to in-school instruction. So the parents I've talked to, you know, they're asking, can we do this? Can we get back to school and get off of these plans? But basically, it's working pretty well, so we're okay with what we're doing right now. But
What's the biggest reason that they would like to return?
well, they're just having difficulty. They didn't realize how difficult it was to be teaching them. And we understand, because we went through that in the spring.
Sure.
So also, at this time, I would like to publicly commend our intervention specialists, our speech language providers, our entire behavior staff with our new program down in Powhatan, occupational therapists, physical therapists, because they have provided outstanding professionalism and they have noble attitudes in what they're doing. They have done above and beyond what we've asked them, but I'm very pleased with all the reports that I'm getting in here, and I just want to give them a pat on the back. I've received numerous phone calls and emails from parents, and they're telling me the same thing. They're saying they're doing a great job. They just didn't know what they would do without them. So they're bringing them in for services, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I just want to take the time to commend them.
Yeah. I think we echo that. We appreciate them as well.
And I believe that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Cosby.
Sure.
Mr. Remick, anything?
Yes, sir. First of all, to add to what Mr. Caldwell told you, the Monroe Central complex up there, the multi-purpose building, they just delivered modern hardware, range, washer and dryer, and compact refrigerator, and there's another refrigerator that's on order for it, for those rooms there. So those are things there. At River High School, the top floor was just released to us. We've been using the building for the first 3 home games. It's been used for the home visitors locker room. Rooms are also being completed with equipment and materials. We have a few things that are on back order. The weight room, some of the weight room equipment is in, but the dumbbells and some of the plates and bumper plates are still on order. They're coming at the end of October. Cardio equipment is in, and Mrs. Miller, she's working on getting familiar with the cardio equipment to be able to use with the classrooms. We're still moving things in there as far as some of the desks, chairs, things of that nature, getting it ready to go. Career readiness. Currently, we're working with the principals, the elementary principals, with the Second and Seventh Foundation. The Second and Seventh Foundation is a reading program that is used for second graders where athletes come down to them and read to them. We did this program last year, and it was very successful, so we're looking at doing it again this year. The early work placement with Swiss Hills, we have 14 students right now that are either out working or are in progress with paperwork. We've been out to visit different sites and everything with some of the employers and that's one of the things we'd like to thank the employers that have kids out right now, because especially in this time with the COVID restrictions, it's pretty tough for them to take kids. So, we want to thank them. Winter sports report. At this time, we're looking at and set in on a Zoom meeting with the OHSAA the other day with the state directors with basketball and that. And one of the things that they're telling us is if you look at a volleyball game, you're probably looking at what you're going to see for basketball. It's going to be the 15% capacity. It's going to be limited seating. It's going to be mask worn on the side. It's going to be chairs separated apart, coaches are gonna have to wear masks, all those things. Wrestling is kind of a unique situation. They're not really saying anything yet about wrestling. They said that right now it's just as it normally is, but they said, we'll get back with you on that. So one of the things that came up about that was they questioned early on whether they were gonna allow tournaments. Because of the number of teams coming in and everything, they had kind of questioned, they said maybe only dual matches. So that might be a possibility. That kind of remains to be seen with them. Fourth thing that I have is, and I want to talk to the board about, Mr. Caldwell had asked me to go poll the principals and the ADs and everything about youth sports. So I talked to all the elementary principals, talked to ADs and everything, and we're working on guidelines that are similar to what we have now. There are some questions, and I think the board needs to consider these about how we're going to approach this. The overall consensus of the principals and ADs and everything was that to recommend that we allow practices, okay, but no competition, okay, because of the fact of the large number of people coming in, that you can't control that aspect of it. And I know there's arguments both ways for it, but a lot of the kids, and we've talked with some of the different youth groups and that, and they're going out and playing in leagues at, I think, the Highlands, out at Cambridge, and a number of different places. So we thought at least it would be good to give them an opportunity, a place to practice in that. One of the things that I think the board has to consider is how do we, who's going to be responsible for sanitizing that area? Once, if we limit it to 1 or 2 teams coming in a night, who's going to be responsible for sanitizing that area once they leave? Okay, because the next morning when the school kids come in. So, that's something, because the custodians in that, they already have a set schedule where they're cleaning certain things and everything, so, that's something to consider. But we're looking at putting together some guidelines for that. Which a lot of them would be very similar to what some of the things we have now, temperature checks, COVID-19 sheet. You limit, it's a closed practice. Nobody else can come in. It's sort of some of the same guidelines that the board put together for the high school sports. When you can't have a lot of parents in the building running around, things like that. So you kind of limit the number of coaches that are there, the number of people that are able to come in the building at that point. Discussion on that, it's questions? Thoughts?
About the cleaning, what do you mean? Do they clean, is there a certain time that they do their final clean for the day?
Yeah, and I think it varies by building. I know I spoke with a couple of different custodians and that. Some of them will go around at the end of the day. It would depend upon how long you would have a team in there. If you've got your high school teams that are practicing and your junior high teams that are practicing, so depending upon the facility, that facility might be, and we're talking basically about the elementary schools or a secondary gym that you might have like at Monroe Central or Rivers Old Gym. And what we're looking at is keeping the 3 main high school gyms clear of that because you're going to have teams practicing in there anyhow. So somebody might be practicing, let's say that high school may still have somebody practicing from 6 to 7:30. So if a younger team comes in after them, or if they're done at 6 and you allow 2 younger teams to come in after them, well, they might be there till 9 o'clock. So, whether that custodian has an opportunity to clean that area, to sanitize it for the next day, is kind of the question.
We just have to rearrange your schedules, that's all. Have the final cleaning at a certain time.
But the other thing is if they're not used to that being in their regular schedule, they may not have time to do that. What have you thought about maybe having a volunteer take care of that cleaning?
Yeah, I think you have to put, again, you can't go back, and who's going to monitor it? I think there has to be some pretty strict guidelines set down beforehand and those groups, you have to sit down with them and say, hey, listen, here's the guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not qualified to do the specific cleaning, then you can't.
Right.
It wouldn't.
Volunteers wouldn't get it, no.
Right, they can't come in and do it.
I would think we could
Then you're
rearrange
the whole-
schedules with the genders.
Yeah, if you would have to bring in some type of supplemental help, then you get into the whole, who's gonna do it and who's gonna be, you're gonna have to go through the sub list according to, seniority and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That could be a nightmare.
Well, and who's responsible for paying for
Right,
the
who would
supplemental
you
help?
saying that, or the youth organization is gonna pay, but they don't have,
Right, and at
money
this
anyway,
time,
so-
the youth themselves, they're not able to play, they always generate their money from tournaments and things like that, so.
let me ask you this, what, I know a lot of schools, I know in particular Monroe Central and Woodsville don't have them, but looking into getting the, curtains for both of those gyms, so we could have 4 practice areas as opposed to, 2, and then I don't know, I haven't been in the new building up there yet, I'm just using that as an example. If you got 2 gyms at River, I don't know if they have a curtain in either gym either. Is that something we could consider for that particular, where you could have more people, then you get into the amount of people in the facility?
Yeah.
I mean, it would open up a better opportunity for the kids, because I'd hate to see the kids, because we already have enough trouble getting kids out to play certain sports, and then we're gonna say, no, you can't do it. I understand the health risks are more important, but, a lot of logistics.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing is, and everybody was kind of all the principals and ADs were in agreement that we have to get something back for these kids where they can do some things. Because right now it's, they're shut up, they come to school, boom, go home, that's it, it's kind of, that outlet's not there. The team play and things of that nature.
Possibility of this maybe starting to die down as the winter hits.
Right, well, and that was one of the things that we said, that's a good point, Greg, is that you look at it, come January, you sit back and look at it again, you reassess it and say, okay, have the guidelines, do we need to, lessen the restrictions on the guidelines, open it up a little bit more.
Well, and another thing too, I know there's a lot of talk in a lot of colleges that, in the lower divisions, they put football off until the spring with the potential of being there. Why can't we have these younger, groups, let's just say, let's just hold off until after the first of the year or after Christmas break or whatever, and, maybe try to plan something then as opposed to now.
Yeah.
And see, like you said, if the restrictions are lessened at that time, and it'd be a little, and then we could get into maybe more people in the building, the curtains for the buildings. But I priced those curtains when I was still involved. I mean, for the price of them, it'd be a great thing to have, to open up that many more spaces for these kids to have.
Right.
Instead of being there till 9 o'clock at night on a school night.
Yeah, I think if there's any possible way that we can open things back up and do it safely, with the restrictions and the guidelines and everything, it gives them, and a lot of the principals kind of referred to, they said, we're gonna have a 0 tolerance policy. If somebody doesn't adhere to the guidelines, they're gonna lose that opportunity to do it.
Will you have a compliance officer?
Well, see, here's the thing, you can't, we discussed that also, you can't expect your compliance officer, okay, to be able to monitor youth sports. You can't, they just can't be there. I mean, you've got the ADs and principals usually are your compliance officers. They're the compliance officers for the high school sports and for the junior high sports, so they're kind of there to monitor them. Most of those practices are gonna take place anywhere from 6 to 9 o'clock at night in most cases. So, those people have already, put in a full day and they've probably been at a game maybe that night, whether it's a junior high basketball game or a high school basketball game, boys or girls, a wrestling match or whatever, so it's kind of hard for them to do it. And I think some of the things that we've talked about was if you restrict, it's 2 or 3 coaches, because the problem is if you don't put a restriction on it, then everybody's a coach. And I've got 10 people in there now.
There's cameras in all gyms.
Yes.
I mean, that could be a way you could
Monitor.
or say, hey, we can go back and look at anything, so make sure, this is how it has to be. If not, then, that would get you out of having to have that compliance person, there.
Right, and those people, each youth league or each group has somebody generally that's in charge of that whole group, that oversees that group, and they're basically going to have to kind of monitor their groups. Yeah, we'll sit down, we're writing up currently, we're looking at different guidelines and that, and how we can do it, and we'll bring it and present it to the board.
Pretty much gonna have to be very similar, if not exact, almost to what the high school and junior high's protocols are. I mean, if they're on the court, say basketball, if they're on the court, they're good, but if they're off, over on the bench, they gotta have masks on,
Yeah.
you know, and social distance, I mean, it's
Temperature checks, the whole, yeah.
temperature checks when they come in, they gotta be recorded. They're gonna have to follow same protocol that,
Is there any specific training that anybody would have to do the protocols? Like the temperature checks and a certain way to record things, I mean, is there anything that would, I mean, I don't know if any of our high school people or junior high people have had to do anything specifically.
Right, yeah, each coach at every school is familiar with doing the temperature checks, and they know that if, especially if that trainer's not there.
I mean, the youth people, they have to be.
They would have to be trained, they would have to be.
That's what I'm asking.
There would have to be a
show them
meeting.
the form that
Right.
we use, and
That group, well, and that group, before it was ever opened up to them, they would have to come and meet with the compliance officers. And the compliance officers can go over with them and say, okay, here's the guidelines. You know, you have to adhere to these. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. George, do you have anything?
All the phenomenal air units been installed in all facilities.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Mr. Clutter?
Turns out you're getting through. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cole. Transportation, we've had a few bumps in the roads here. We're continuing to add students to routes every day, bus routes, van routes. This is count week, so we are counting all the students that ride the bus every day, that get off the bus every day at every building. We're monitoring the students and the miles, so at the end of the week and next week, I'll compile all that information and get it back into the Department of Ed. Use that for calculations, mileage, and student numbers. Like Mr. Caldwell said, we're starting to receive students back off the remote learning, so we'll have to adjust routes as we go, and I've got more information today of more students that are coming from a different direction, so we may be coming for another driver possibly, and maybe an aide, so I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna work that out. But anyhow, thank you.
Great.
Yes, sir.
How about, do we have enough bus drivers right now?
Right now, we've been doing okay. I drove this afternoon, but that's normal, 2-3 days a week, that's normal for me to drive bus, so. But we're doing okay. We've got a few drivers off right now, so it's kind of pulling in for subs on regular routes. But I'd really commend the drivers for, you know, the bumps in the roads that we have and adjusting routes daily, and different route in the morning and different route in the afternoon, and more students, so it's just been a constant. But yeah, we're doing okay right now so far.
So we shouldn't have to put on the website, you know, we might need substitutes.
I mean, we can always use substitutes. That's something, we can always use, but I don't, there's no line there. Anybody standing in line wanting to drive bus, so, but we're doing okay, Jerry, yeah. We're doing okay right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Clutter. Do I have anything? No. Good? I think that's everybody. All right, that should do it, Mr. President. Oh. I thought you were on the.
I'm on the agenda, I don't know if you're talking now.
Well, go ahead, yeah.
It's up to you, however you
Yeah,
want to do
that's
it.
fine, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank each of you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. Swiss Hills, we've had a successful start to the school year. We had parent-teacher conferences the other night. Of course, they were virtual. We had over 200 contacts with our parents. Each one of our teachers not only took the ones that called in and scheduled contact with them, but they also went and made phone calls and positive contacts to our students so that we can start to build that connection between our parents and our staff and our schools. So that went very well. I'd like to commend every one of our staff members at Swiss Hills. They're very hardworking, very positive. They all care about kids, and they're working endlessly to try to improve our programs and make the place a much better place to learn. Want me to go into the items?
Yeah, go right ahead.
The first thing I have,
on your agenda tonight, our auto tech class. We've got 31 students in that class right now. We're requesting an extra FTE for that, and that's going to give us a couple options here. One, we're excited to have that many students within that program. For the number of students, normally we have 2 teachers already in that program. This will also allow us to kind of expand our curriculum and get more into diesel, which has been a goal for the district. And I talked with Mr. Romick, and there's actually been some plans and some dollars set aside in the past that purchased some things to kind of assist in diesel mechanics. So that item is on your agenda tonight to add another FTE to our auto tech program. The other thing that I have on your agenda, I'll help you out.
Yeah, feel free,
Stand up just a
whenever
little
you
bit.
need to, Rob.
We have several satellite programs, actually extensions of our programming at Swiss Hill out in the comprehensive high schools. This particular proposal is for greenhouses for our agriculture programs. Currently, those programs at Bellsville and Monroe Central don't have a laboratory in order to work and in order to stay in compliance with state of Ohio expectations. We need to provide them with a learning lab. One way to do that is through providing a greenhouse. I've given you a handout on this. Is a picture of what that greenhouse would look like. Also in your agenda, there are 3 quotes from 3 different companies on a structure similar to this. One of those quotes happens to be from Stephanie. We're looking at a gable-style greenhouse. That greenhouse is going to have heat, ventilation, vents, automatic controls for the environmental controls of the vents and the heat and so on. It's a polycarbonate covering on it, which is 8 millimeters thick. Sort of looks like the inside of cardboard on the inside of it. Really strong, holds up very well. So we'll be covered by that polycarbonate on the roof and the sidewalls. This is a really quality structure, pre-engineered. You can see some of the pictures of what the facility could look like on the inside. There are several things that this is going to allow our students at Monroe Central and Bellsville to do. Not only are you going to have your horticultural crops such as bedding plants and vegetable plants and stuff like that they can raise, but you'll also have the opportunity to get into some aquaculture and fish farming. And you can actually hook those into hydroponic systems too, so you can actually use the waste from the fish to grow vegetables and stuff, which is kind of an environmental science type project. These greenhouses, some experience that other schools that have had, it really gives a connection between your high school students and your elementary students too. It gives an opportunity for your high school students to actually teach some things and bring your elementary students in and show them what some of the possibilities are in agriculture. One thing that a lot of schools do is Mother's Day, bedding plants and stuff. Typically, they'll bring the elementary students in and they take something home to their mothers, which makes a really good connection between the school and your community. Really good PR. These facilities, like I mentioned before, can also be used for environmental science. You can grow tree seedlings in them. You can grow pretty much any plant year-round. If you choose to do some of the options, there's some options in the back. You can put cool cell pads and stuff in them, which allow you to extend your growing season into the summer. Also, the greenhouse. Some of the teachers have mentioned raising some chickens and doing some boilers and broilers and about a 6 or 8 week project. You could raise those chickens in those greenhouses to kind of vent the smell and stuff out of the building so you don't have the inside. And it makes a really nice facility to do those things. These houses, like I said, high quality, 10-foot eaves. Be something similar to what you would see if you went into like a garden center, like a Lowe's or Home Depot or a Menards. They're gutter connected greenhouses. So if in the future, you wanted to add a bay or expand them, you would have that opportunity to do it at a reasonable cost. The cost for all three of them, that includes putting them up, $294,336. It's our intention to utilize our construction classes to put these things up, and that would take that cost down significantly. But in order to be upfront about the cost and make sure that we get the projects completed, you cannot always rely on student labor, especially with COVID right now. You need to make sure that you have funds set aside so that you can complete the project. I could go on and on and on about these. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. If you got some questions, I'll answer them.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
These greenhouses going up at these other schools.
Yeah.
What's the other, you got room?
Yeah. Monroe Central, actually, they've actually selected a site that would be right behind their new field house. They've actually got a pad and everything already completed back there, so there would be minimal work that went up there. Belleville is working on a spot out there for it. Now, their greenhouses would be the smaller ones because their area is a lot smaller. And then out at the Career Center, we got plenty of room to set up a structure like this.
To remind the group, Diana Burkhardt has worked with us to, we received a small, well, it's not small, it's $10,000, but a $10,000 grant that you have accepted for the purpose of a greenhouse system. So there's some money which pays for a lot of some of the commercial type elements that would be in the greenhouses.
If you look in the back of this, it's got some growing system prices. Now, these aren't included in the cost or proposal here, but that $10,000 could be used to put some of these things in, benches, aquaculture systems, stuff like that. There's some stuff for hydroponic systems and stuff like that you could purchase to supplement the classroom.
One of the teachers too, not to cut you off, one of the teachers received a mini grant and she wanted to put it with this money to supplement that for upright hydroponic units.
Now, these can also be a collaboration between your science department and your agriculture department. A lot of times, in a regular biology class, for instance, in high school, you don't get to see the application of biological theory and so on. And this provides a place where you could actually do some genetics experiments and stuff like that, and do some actual hands-on experience raising crops and so on. So it supports agronomy, animal science, natural resources, environmental science, and your science program.
You mentioned the size. What size? You said Belleville would be a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it would be a 30 by 48.
The larger, 30 by 60.
30 by 60. There's not a lot of difference in price when you look at the estimate. There's only a couple $1,000 difference in a 30 by 60 and a 30 by 48. Most of your cost is, you've already paid for your environmental systems and all that stuff the same in a 30 by 60 or 30 by 48.
Do you guys have permits to put these up?
These here, you'd have to get a permit to put them up.
That's what I thought.
But they're pre-engineered structures. So as far as, architectural fees and stuff like that, it would be minimal. Anytime you build anything on a school property, you have to be permitted. That's something that would be a really good experience for our construction kids to have to go through that process and know what that process to have an inspector come out and all the steps, and they can actually see why sometimes on permitted projects why there's so much more, because it takes more time. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we turn it over to you, Mrs. President.
Back to me. All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs pulled out, or anybody have any questions on anything under?
What's number 4?
Number 4, approval, that's for tests, that's,
Yeah, that's what I thought. It did come up again. That's what I thought,
Yeah.
right?
we saved like,
For all the schools, yeah.
I think we saved like $140-some
Yeah.
thousand on that fee rate.
That's what I thought it was. It didn't come up, but now it did. I make a motion we accept the consent agenda. I have no problem.
I'll second it.
Another.
Hey, how was it?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to old business.
Are these some of the policies you brought up here or on different?
I think it's here.
Okay.
Rob, did you get a chance to see the email that I had sent this morning? Early, like 5 o'clock this morning. It was to most of the team, Sarah
Yeah,
and,
'cause I think
yeah.
Bohatch and I were discussing that, and I think when I was there, she takes it as a response.
No,
That number 5200?
it is on there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just a minute ago.
Let me check the. Is that part of it in there?
The remote part?
Yeah. Okay. And then on one of them, I don't think I put it in the email this morning, and I apologize. But, we have to say it, it's not in the 5200, I'll get it for you in a minute, but we have to say like within 5 days, and it sounds like the instruction in the policy says we can't do less than 14 days, or am I? On, 5611 is one of them. I was hoping that Bill would weigh in, especially on the deleted one, because that, like the guidance that we get that talks to us about it.
Yeah. You wanna table it, or?
Well, I don't know. Less than. I don't know how urgent these policies are. I did text Evan after she had any, input on them. We're
Oh, yeah, we have to do it.
if you were saying, is this something like that?
That's the amount of gas. That's the amount of gas. Okay.
Okay. This number right here is for us, and it sounds like.
That's what you're finding. Here.
For the notice of the city intends to appeal the suspension to the board. Such notice of the appeal shall be filed in writing with the treasurer of the bond for 5 days. It is a recommendation of the board for individuals to file the notice to appeal within a specific number of calendar days after the notice. That goes with that. The board cannot specify a date for the appeal. Expulsion is less than 14 days. It's of the expulsion.
Yeah, this is suspension.
Yeah.
Here,
I don't think those are.
this is expulsion. Yeah, still of expulsion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think this is about the same thing.
Yeah.
With the number of calendar days after the notice, the board cannot specify a date for filing of the notice of appeal of the expulsion. It is less than 14 days. It's the expulsion.
Okay.
Because this one is. Days after the notice of an suspension. Yeah, they're giving you a heads up, the expulsion is different.
So then the piece I was asking about on the attendance is okay, right, Jennifer? The piece about, the attendance that I had asked about this morning, because we point to the student handbook, so putting that there is fine. That's the piece that I was talking about this morning.
The remote learning piece would need to be added
Mm-hmm.
to the handbook.
To the policy. The way we're putting it is,
Right,
For the
the
most-
policy and the handbook, because it needs to be in the handbook also.
well, if it's in the policy, it's probably fine
Okay.
The policy points to it.
for the most part, but then when we talk about the remote learning, that is in our attendance policy. You guys have any questions on this? On number 1? Are you guys okay to do the motion for both of those two sets of policies?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, I'll make a motion that we accept 1 and 2 under old business for the policies update.
I'll second.
Yes.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Gus,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Abstain.
Thank you. All right, that motion carries, and that's all of old business, and that brings us to new business. Number 1 is OTA 3220 policy. Any questions? And the rest of the policy will be developed as the committees meet, correct, Rob?
Yeah, there's an evaluation committee that will meet and they have to determine local decisions within the policy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that would change anything in there, then it would come back and the policy would be revised.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, I'll make a motion, we accept number 1, the 3220 policy.
Second.
Voting is open. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker. Gus,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries, which brings us to number 2, new business, discussion and approval of CF Educational Solutions as an approved vendor for communications plan and other educational solutions.
We're lucky enough to have, Dr. Bob Summers with us, who is the co-founder of CF Education, and his team with us, which I'll let him introduce when the time comes. So he's going to, share with us some of the products that we use and the overall structure, what his company has, and some other products that we have. It's a pleasure for me to have him here tonight. He flew in from Oklahoma to be able to make arrangements, allows, you to ask questions about what they can offer to us. We have been using them. You have been having some questions about the products that we use. But I feel honored to have him come and see our school district. I've followed his career for a long time, from when he was a superintendent at a career center when I first started out in my own career in career tech, to watching him work in legislation and at one point worked for the High Department of Education, and where his career's led him over in Oklahoma, and even over in some of the work that he does in Vietnam. So I'm not going to take away the steam of what he has to offer there, and then he has a couple team members that he's brought with us too. But I'm going to let him present before you have the opportunity to vote on that, give you an opportunity to ask how we use some of the products and what other products he has to present. So Dr. Summers, it's all yours, and if we need a little help there, that doesn't project up there, Hey, Pat.
First of all, if it's all right, I'll take this mask off while I'm standing away from you to be able to talk. It feels weird trying to talk through that. And it's a privilege to be here. I don't live in Oklahoma, I actually live in the Cincinnati area, but we do business around the country, and we came off the trip. I said it was beautiful to see a beautiful territory in Oklahoma where you can see Denver and Dallas from the same point in the ground, to come here to see all the elevations and all the beautiful trees. It's a beautiful fall. I do want to thank you for being a board member. I had the privilege of being elected to a local school board myself. There were times when I said everybody should have to do it once and nobody should have to do it twice. Does that feel familiar? I was surprised how quickly my IQ went up before the election and dropped right after. As you start implementing things. London, Ohio is where I was a board member. We introduced the ninth grade proficiency tests and a whole bunch of other things that had to pass 12.9 mils. So I really appreciate the work that you do. The website is probably a little bit slow, but I think we'll be in good shape. I only wanted to present, I'm just going to present right off our website, so you can go to it. It's cfedsolutions.com if you have any questions. All but one or two things will be right there on the website. I want to give you a real quick overview of CF Educational Solutions and then talk about why we appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And we don't work with every school because we're looking for certain kinds of schools that have certain opportunities and certain attitudes about student performance, and you'll see why that is in a little bit. And then I'll open it up to any questions that you have. We'll try to make it fairly short because you got a long meeting. CF Ed Solutions, we started this week, will be our beginning of our 4th year, but most of the people in it have been there for a lot of years. I've got about 45 years in education. I was a classroom teacher. I was an ag teacher. Classroom teacher, worked for the Department of Ed, became superintendent of Butler Tech, and learned a great deal there. When I came there, we were 42nd out of 49 in student performance in the 49 career tech centers, and we were 3rd in size. When we got finished over about a 9-year period, we were the highest performing, lowest cost, and largest in the state. And we've been number 1 in performance 3 years in a row. It taught me that there's no bad people, there's just bad systems. And you build a high-quality system, and great people flourish, and talent flourishes. And it was a fascinating experience. It wasn't because of any skill or knowledge or specific recommendations from me, but it was based on our inquisitiveness to get out and look around. We built a national benchmarking group to learn from other schools. We had consultants in. But most importantly, is we built a system that allowed our staff and faculty to really flourish and be creative. And it worked, and we've done it ever since. Our mission's an endless pursuit of student success. We actually measure our quality as an organization on whether or not your students succeed if you work with us. We actually see the only customer we have is student success. Everyone else is a partner, so we have 2 big kinds of partners. We have a small team, and we have one of our partners with us tonight, Solution Partners, Andrea Cook. She does communications. We try to locate really great talent that has the ability to transform things, because remember, we're looking to increase your student performance. We then partner with school districts, because obviously we don't teach students, you folks do. So we try to marry those two. In a nutshell, that's our business model. Student performance is very important to us. Obviously, we have to pay the bills, and we have other market measures, but for the most part, we focus entirely on the students. That's interesting. It's working just fine. See something on your internet? Well, we'll move right along. There's a group of people, a small team. Your person that works with you is Dan Schreier. You'll probably have seen his name before. He, from time to time, our team does do things like I do board governance, because I was on a board. My dissertation was on school boards, and I've become fascinated with school boards over the years. And so I do that work, but also we work with other people along the way. We have 4 basic insights, and I'm hoping all these work, and if they don't, we'll hand out the books early. We have 4 insights on what makes student performance go up. One is you got to have a real good sense of what a future-ready graduate is, and that's something that personally you need to develop right here in Monroe County. You need to work on that yourself because each school district needs to have its own view. The state identifies a state report card. That's an interesting place to begin, but it really isn't the answer that you may want to have in your community. So we work heavily there. We have partners that are significant, do significant work. Let's see. That is really interesting. Okay, we'll adapt. I wasn't going to hand these out in advance, but if you could pass that right along. One more, and now you can keep one up.
Oh, yeah.
One for Greg, or, oh, he's given, he's got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, if you would, the booklet kind of follows the website, so if you would turn to page 6, it identifies the things that we work on heavily around the notion of a future-ready graduate. We do NGLC My Ways, if you want to see, and this is an example of where we provide free information. My Ways is a major national study of what it takes to be a future-ready graduate in terms of skill sets. Fascinating work. You can look up My Ways on the website, and you can get that without any cost at all. Board governance, we do education with boards. We work with boards to set aspirations. We work with boards on how to work with governance. We do not do work on laws and that sort of thing. We do work on policies and help you really become the board that drives the vision for the district and holds the superintendent accountable while also giving them the ability to perform admirably for you. It's a fascinating area that really a lot of boards we've been very successful. We're especially successful when boards are uncertain about what their collective desire for the district is to be. We do also talent searches. We do superintendent searches and talent searches, and we also do talent development in that area. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is at the center of what we really believe and work in. We don't do much of that work for you here. We do work around individual leadership development and that sort of thing. But strategic planning is, you turn to page 10, you'll see that we do Baldrige work. If you're familiar with Baldrige, data analytics, strategic planning, and the Calmus ratio. Calmus ratio I'll come back to in a little bit, but it's an innovation that we created. It's the cost per successful student. So it measures not only your progress in creating success, but also how effectively, cost effectively you do that, which is always good for taxpayers wanting to know, did I get my money's worth out of the school district? So continuous improvement, we have a saying, every school district, every organization is perfectly designed to get the results it's getting. It's an engineering view of the world, but literally whatever student performance you're getting now and the cost that you're getting, your organization is perfectly designed to accomplish that. And what we try to do is move that to a place that is desirable for you, whatever those aspirations are. Technology integration. We represent a very small set of products. And again, the reason we represent products is not because we're a catalog salesman, but because we want to move student performance. For example, and if you look on page 14, you see the big 3 areas that we work with is literacy, STEM, and assessment. I'll use an example. We represent Mind Play. Mind Play moved Dayton from 608 out of 608 school districts in performance to 599, and they went from an F school report card to almost a C, and that was in a year and a half's worth of work around mind play. They doubled the number of students that were proficient based on the state test. They 3X'd increased their advanced readers, and for students with disabilities, they had a 4X increase in proficiency, and that was not internal test data, that was actual state test results. Fascinating program. Why do I share that? Well, MindPlay is just one of a small group of technologies that we found that can enhance teacher capacity. Teachers are critical to the process, but just like every other line of business, and any kind of line of work, including healthcare and psychology and everything else, technology has been able to increase our capability or enhance our capacity. What I'd like to do is real quickly, I'm hoping this works because this is, let me just pull it up. This shows you who we serve right now. You can go to the website and see it anytime you want. It updates as we work with new things. And I'll give you full disclosure. That little school in Vietnam is one that we helped a foundation put in place. Before COVID, they had hoped to have about 100 of these little private schools. They got 60 to 65 students, private schools, learning, parents wanting their children to learn what they need to know to be able to come to the United States to go to college. So very selective school. So I didn't want you to think that this was a massive operation over here. It's just a little tiny thing. And thank God for Zoom and a whole bunch of other things. Here is most of our work, 99% of our work, and you'll see that it's centered around where we have people working. Ohio obviously is a big part of that. It started down in this corridor where we began. We also have a lot of work in Georgia. My son and I co-founded the company. My son lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and so we've got a lot of work in there, including down in this area. We have some in Florida. We have a lot in Oklahoma because I was Secretary of Education in Oklahoma and got to know a lot of people, and it's a great state to work with. We also have a new person in Texas, so we're emerging in Texas, Indiana, Kentucky. Kentucky was especially, we've been especially active around strategic planning and data analytics there. So overall, we're rating, right now we have served school districts that represent about 690,000 students, 660,000 students, and we're hoping to be at about 700,000 by the end of the year. What I would like to do is just real quickly go back to kind of wrap up a little bit of what it is that we work on. We are looking for school districts that are committed partners to student success, because remember when I started this, we're measuring our company's success in how well your students perform. If we can't bring you value that increases student performance on things that matter to you, then we haven't done our job and we'll leave and go do something else. So far, we've been very successful at moving schools, just like I talked about Butler Tech. We have 5 questions that we ask the districts, and yours is beautifully positioned to really make a difference. How does your performance compare to other school systems is the first question we ask. And it doesn't matter where you are. Let me show you a quick look at why we see value in it. One of the things we do is data analytics. You probably have not seen a chart like this. We take poverty along the baseline. We take your performance index up this side. We statistically determine the line where you should be performing if you were average. And here's Switzerland of Ohio, well below where you should be for the kind of poverty levels that you have. See this little dot right here? This one is is an overachiever that's just north of you called Steubenville. So Steubenville has about twice as much poverty as you do, has city challenges, and is performing better than people that are even up to here, right?
Yeah,
you're
right. True, very true.
Yeah, so what we do is we look at this and say, we see opportunity. We match that opportunity, then we look at how far, let's take a look at where you are as far as growth. So it could be that you're here, but you're at that low level, but you've been making progress. So again, I'll use Steubenville. By the way, don't shoot the messenger. All this data is just state data, right? I didn't make this up for you. So Steubenville in 2012 was at 348th ranking out of 608 school districts. I'm leaving out the community schools and charter schools. The last data that we have was 19 rather, FY19. They were 70th. Now, that's a serious gain. Now, how did they do that? Well, a lot of people say, well, it's success for all, or it's a whole bunch of activities that they're doing, which are very, very important. But what Steubenville actually did was they decided that they wanted to be that good. And they went about the business of saying, where do we want to go? Where do we want to be? What will we find acceptable? And then they went and found the things that they implemented. And that's where we find great value in Steubenville being an example, because that's how we approach all of the school districts we have. Butler Tech decided it was going to be high performing first. Then it went about the business of making that happen through lots of activities. Let's take a look at you. Again, by the way, continuous improvement's all about celebrating bad news, right? 572nd ranking back in 2013. The last data that we had because of COVID, you were 563rd. You're not losing ground, although there was some middle ground space. But for the most part, you're at the 10th percentile amongst districts, so pretty low. Steubenville's at the 93rd percentile. They started at the 42nd. So the possibilities are really great in this setting. We do one other thing, and then we'll move on to question 2, is the Calmus ratio. And the Calmus ratio for you, I know this thing's going to not give it to you, so I'll just tell you. Calmus ratio is cost per successful student. So on a cost per pupil basis, your expenditures per pupil, last year, the last data that they had, you were the 26th highest per pupil expenditure in the state of Ohio. So not the place that you want to be high on the list, right, is cost per pupil. So you were up there, you were actually higher than many suburban school districts around Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. Steubenville, on the other hand, was 491st in cost per pupil. So that's just straight up cost per pupil. The cost per successful student, you were at the 4th percentile. 4th percentile meaning only 4% of the districts were lower than you, and Steubenville was at the 86th percentile, and that's cost per successful student means you have to perform. So when you have low performance and high cost, obviously you're going to be low. Now, why would I share all that bad news with you when we're trying to work with you? Well, question number 1 is, where do you compare, and do you have the desire to do those comparisons and be honest with everybody and do something about it? You don't complain about it, you do something about it. And by the way, if you want one more look at on the cost per pupil, if we look at the state data, which is not the Calmus ratio, this is you. Up the line is better. So here's similar districts. Down the line is better because that's lower cost per pupil. So your costs are way out here, and the performance isn't real good. Let me do all districts to give you a feel. Not where you would like to be. Now, this is an island district. Some of these are in worse place, but you've got opportunities. You've got opportunities to grow if you focus on things correctly. Question 2, real quickly, is what do you aspire to achieve? And that's where we would love to work with you. We do strategic planning. The board governance work will be, where do you want to be? And have a thoughtful discussion, not a random thing, but we actually do work to help you figure out what the possibilities are. What stands in your way? We love to work with districts to figure out what is the root cause of the problem of your performance. And we do it in terms of what you control, not what you don't control. And then we work our way through it. Are you prepared to change everything? I joke, this one is, so my wife is a co-member of this company, right? She's retired. She thought she was retired. She tries to be fired all the time, but she's too good at what she does. And so Rob and I said, the way we answer this is, would we fire Denise if we found a better way to do business? And you got to do that. You got to be able to make whatever changes you need. But what we're looking for in these 2 questions is, do you talk about the things that you control? And then finally, join a network of performance-focused schools. We were very successful, and that's free of charge. We have a growing network of people in schools that really want to do great things. That's us. I've got a handout of the strategic plan. We would love to do work with you. We think that would be a beautiful place to make progress on that student success, student performance, and also board governance work. We would love to have the opportunity for you to set your own vision, not just rely on the state report card and other things that are already in place. So with that, I hope you sense the passion that my son and I have for student success. I've been at this a very long time, sat in a lot of positions, but they've always been the same. Student success is what counts all the way around. We can achieve it. We believe that, and we believe that with proper design we can be successful. And if it weren't for student success, I wouldn't still be doing the work. So, questions, comments?
I have one. What percentage of credit do you give yourselves for Steubenville success?
We did not work with Steubenville. I want to be clear. No, we did not work. I use Steubenville because they are an exemplar in this area. We have worked with Dayton. We would give ourselves in Dayton. Libby Lolly would give us a great deal of credit because she upgraded the curriculum overall. She's a curriculum superintendent and did a phenomenal job of that. But the big gains were in reading. It wasn't us. She made the decision to use MindPlay, but we came in and supported MindPlay. We're the highest the quality implementation. MindPlay is a national organization or a national company, and we're rated about 4x better than the second place vendor for actual usage and engagement and performance gains. So I give myself about 2%. The client support team that Denise leads, probably about 20%. And then 80% of it is having the right leaders, making the right choices, and making those choices. So great question. Bullitt, Kentucky, I think would be a good measure for us. We completed a strategic plan a year and a half ago. They are making moves in Kentucky. They're just south of Louisville. We gave them the new superintendent. We gave them a lot to work with, and if you called Adrian Usher or Jesse Bacon down there, they would tell you that. We work in Oklahoma. We're just emerging in Oklahoma. We had Henry County in Georgia. The schools that used MindPlay went straight up, and principals and other schools are looking at it. Performance was so good that it was noticeable. That's always a challenge. Appreciate the question. Butler Tech is probably our best example of what we have packaged together. And again, 42nd out of 49 to number one 3 years in a row, went from about 7,000 student head count to 25,000. Cost per pupil was just right at a third less than the statewide average. Phenomenal stuff full time. Other questions? We hope that what we bring, Andrea Brady is a genius at communications. We rely on her whenever a school district needs a communication strategy. She's a fellow board member. She's an active board member, not a has-been like me. But she works really well with stuff. We have great confidence in her work, and when she engages, we get the kind of results that we want. That's the reason that we bring her to the table when folks talked about the need for communications. Dan is a consummate professional around professional growth. He's been in career technical education. By the way, he was part of the Butler Tech team. So he was a key part of that, moving to number one. So we're very proud of the products and the people that we bring to the table, and we hope you are as well when we get done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Andrea? You got it. Although it let me down a little bit.
Well, we don't have to use the internet.
We celebrate bad news, but the website didn't work right.
Uh-oh, do you not have a,
Oh.
your speaker on?
Yep.
Tiny. Thank you for the nice words. Yeah. I don't want to do that.
Anything else, Andrea?
I shall, you can always ask pass, right? Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight.
We'll get through this quick. I've heard a few times today that these things go pretty late, so we don't want to make it go any later.
Okay. Is this the clicker? Oh. I'm not. Nope.
Probably
No,
use the mouse.
We'll just use that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Well, as I said, thank you for having us here. My partner Ryan and I are with School Comm Communications. We'll tell you a bit about us in a second, but as Bob mentioned, we do partner with CF Educational Solutions when their districts need communication support, as well as we have clients of our own and bring them in when we need strategic planning support. So it's a nice relationship. As CF Educational Solutions, we are also focused on student success, but from a little different standpoint. If a school district is going to be successful, they need to be successful in all areas. And having parent support, community support, staff, those are extremely important to make sure that the students succeed, that they have the engagement and the excitement that you need in order to support what you're trying to do and to encourage the students to put in the work that they need. So that's where we're coming from. As I said, we do support public schools. We are communications professionals with specific experience in education. I am a board member in my ninth year. I have one more year. No, I'm wrong. Next year will be 12. I can't count. I'm in my third term, however long that is, in the Milford School District. And it's been a big challenge. We had a lot of problems when I first started, and now we are doing very well financially and educationally, which is the most important part, and it's been a great journey. We do help districts build relationships. We have a lot of different ways to do that. We don't have cookie-cutter approaches. There are some tools that most school districts need and want to use, but then there are also customized options. So we will talk with you, and depending on your budget and your goals, et cetera, we'll recommend the best options to meet your needs.
And I kind of gave you my background. The rest of my background, I also was Director of Communications at Indian Hill Schools in the Cincinnati district for 5 years. Before that, I was in the private sector. That's another unique thing about our company. Most of us have been both in the private sector and in education, which makes it nice because we can bring a lot of those tools and knowledge and apply them within the education arena. And I will turn it over to Ryan.
Yeah, Andrea's the communications genius, as Bob said. I'm the guy who's along for the ride. No, my background is in digital marketing and communications. That's been my career for almost 15 years. Most of that was in the private sector, specifically with financial companies, insurance companies, investment managers. A couple of years ago, I was the co-chair of a bond campaign in Milford. We were trying to build a new junior high. I met Andrea through that. We realized our skills and backgrounds aligned, and I came on board with Fullcom Consultants. We're not just a two-person show. We have an account manager, Natalie. Some of you probably been in contact with or familiar with. She's actually has the most contact with people in the district out of any of us. She's the one who actually puts the work together and gets it out the door. We also have graphic designer. We just brought on a videographer. We're going to do videos next week or 2 weeks for a ESC in Cleveland for a really cool special ed program they have. Website developer partner who we've worked with here in Switzerland, and a lot of other great strategic research. We have some really cool research and survey capabilities and partners. So a small company, but a really robust roster of specialties and people to help school districts out. Taking this one here?
Sure. Okay. Why would you want to work with a company like ours? We like to work from knowledge, just like Bob. We like to talk with your staff, your parents, and find out what they need. We also, when we use our tools, and we'll talk about those and the results in a few minutes, we look at how they're being, how people are accepting them, and we can tweak as needed. So there are a lot of ways that we can take that knowledge and then iterate and make the programs better and stronger. We do like strategy. We like to look at where you are, where you want to go, and then what's the best way to get there. We do keep your costs and commitments low as well, and we'll talk about costs in a little bit, but basically, you have principals who communicate in a lot of different ways. But to do a true communications program, is that really what they're there for? They're there for the education of their students. That's where they need to be focused. So anytime you take them and you put them over here, you are hurting the students. So you can bring in a company like ours and actually pay less for that program than you would if you were doing it internally. You can hire people to do that specifically, but once again, you end up with an expensive person who is on your payroll, whereas a company like ours can come in and really keep those costs and the commitments low. And as I said, we do increase your capacity. The last thing about our company is some companies will come in and they will give you a fantastic plan. And they'll say, here, Rob, these are the 10 things that you need to do for communication. And then what do? I've already said, your people have their own jobs. They have their own areas of expertise. So we are start to finish. We'll come in and do the planning for you, but then we will execute on it too. As Ryan described, we have a wide variety of people. They all have a lot of experience. And we can provide that expertise for you at a very low cost.
I think that one you pick up.
Okay. So the communications plan that we've had in place so far with you. Last October, we got a call from CFED, so about a year ago. And the directive was, there are a lot of great things going on in Switzerland. Nobody knows. The parents aren't engaged. How do we do that?
how do we increase the quality of the materials and the communication throughout the district? And how do you make this a district? You're so big. You're the biggest geographical school district in the state, which is crazy. And you have these different schools and, you know, far reaches of the district. So how do you communicate that this is still a district while still keeping that personality of your school? That's something that's extremely valuable for a school district because, yes, you want school pride, but you also have to have that district. And you have to have that understanding that, yeah, you know, I'm in Monroe Central versus Belleville, but we're still part of the Switzerland. So that was our charge.
All right, so this started at the beginning of this year, which seems so long ago at this point. We started with, which I'm sure you're all familiar with newsletters based on district and school successes, published on the website, pushed out to the community through any newsletter. And, you know, what we've seen in all the districts we work in is, you know, this e-newsletter really reinforces what the things are that are happening in the building. And so, you know, it's a hard thing to measure, but we've seen this in Bullitt County, too. In the very early stages, we work with them, Bullitt County Public Schools in Kentucky, is the parents see these good things that are happening, and it reinforces the faith they have in the staff in the building, and then the credibility that they give to the staff in the building, which helps with the at-home support and learning. So we started that in January. We had really kind of overwhelming response to these newsletters. You guys know, you probably all get a wide variety of emails from a lot of places. If you're like me, you don't open most of them. The average open rate is 27.1%. The average open rate for the district's newsletters is almost 50%. So almost half of the people who are getting these are opening them. Click rate, which means they're clicking through the links in the emails to the school website. Just over a quarter of the people on the list are doing that. The industry average is 7.5%. So it really just incredible success. So go ahead and put all the bullet points up there. So really great timing with this that I don't think any of us could have predicted. We started school-specific newsletters on March 13th, which I think was the exact day that they shut down schools in Ohio.
The last day of school.
Yeah, the last day of school. So we really have not had a true sample of how these newsletters would work for individual schools. Now, I think it was a little fortuitous to have that timing because a lot of these schools used those newsletters at that time as an opportunity to communicate information about what was going on, you know, what the students should be doing, highlighting how teachers were kind of adapting. I know we did some interviews with teachers at River, teacher at Bellsville about just the creative things they were coming up with to keep their students engaged during that uncertain time. But even still, with all the craziness going on, you can see across the board, you know, over 50%, almost over 60% in some cases, open rate, you know, from 22 to 41% click rates on them. So there's definitely an appetite in the district for this information. The other thing that we have worked on here is a new website for the district with our partner, Legend Webworks. They're based in Cincinnati, a smaller company, but I think that's good in this case because you're not just getting some cookie-cutter thing. They work with you, and actually Chad has been very engaged with them to kind of get little things here and there tweaked to better suit your needs. And they're adapted to that because it's so small, or responsive to that. So they work in a lot of industries, but they do have a department specifically focused on school websites. One of the things they offer, as you may know, is advertisements on the site, which might sound a little different, but it's kind of a cool opportunity because it allows you to reach out to businesses in the area to kind of deepen their engagement in the district and allow them to really show their support of the school, and it decreases the cost of posting the website. They have very robust security, responsiveness, design and editing tools. I was at Swiss Hills this afternoon with, well, I don't think Matt's in here anymore, but with Matt and a couple of people from his team teaching them how to make quick edits to their webpage. And they all commented on how easy and simple it was once you got in there to put up pictures, to add pages, edit the text. So that's kind of the strength of what Legend does, is they make it easy for the school to change the site if they want. If you have not seen the new website, that's what it looks like. So it's, I think it is a substantial improvement over what existed. We also have, now they are not technically separate websites. They are sub-sites on the main site, which really aligns with what our charge was, which is to allow each school to keep its individuality, but under the banner of the district. And I know when we were going through this process, I was at Dellsville, and Casey asked, now ours isn't going to look like Monroe's, is it? And then I was at River, and he said, now ours isn't going to look, and Ed said, ours isn't going to look like Belleville's, is it? So I hope that we were able to really meet everyone's expectations about being able to keep their own branding and colors. Here's an example of what Monroe has. Now they also, Monroe was cool because they had, I think it was through FFA, right? Or was it a different group?
Media.
Yeah, they had a student-run website, and we definitely did not want to uproot and replace what they were doing, so we went ahead and just linked to their website as the first option there, so they're still able to do that. But, this is what we have done, and, they're able to find their own advertisers in Woodsfield versus someplace who might be in, Hamilton or Belleville or whatever. They have their colors, their logo, and tried to stay true to that challenge. A little unique here with the different branding, but it also made it kind of fun. Okay, so the other thing that we really, when we started this in, I think I met Cindy in February, and there was no way at that time we could have predicted we would have been working on this, but there was the school reopening this fall and communicating everything with that. We were heavily involved in doing that. I was literally answering and posting on Facebook from morning till night for a couple weeks there, which was fine.
Overnight. You're self-critical.
Well, we were talking about this at Swiss Hills today, and because they were talking about, it was a discussion about the whether or not to allow people to comment on posts. I'm a big believer that unless they are being full or vulgar or whatever, yes, you should allow them to comment. And, this is a pretty intense, heated issue, and I was honestly surprised at how straightforward most of the comments were, of just legitimate questions about how will this work, how will that work. Experience in some other districts where people are maybe a little more heated than they need to. But anyway, so we worked very closely with Cindy, and I also spoke with Jennifer too, a few other people here, creating graphics. One of the challenges in communications is we know people don't read, right? So if you really want something to come across, you got to put it in a graphic. We created graphics, put the information out there in one central location on the website, and then we just tried to drip the stuff over the course of a week or two on social media and be as responsive as we could in real time to questions and comments. And I think Cindy and I were in constant contact of okay, how do we answer this question? What is the answer to this question? Because, also you don't want to put false information out there.
They were pretty close with our, Sarah and
Beth's not here, but they worked really close with our legal to do with
Yes.
the constant communications. With the constant communications, before we posted to make sure it was the right thing to say.
And it's,
You need to mute.
you know, and
Call test. Call test.
I don't know what changed. You don't have.
She's working.
She is.
Bingo.
Should I attempt to, all right, okay. But it's, you know, in that kind of issue too, you talk about the legal, I mean, it's tricky even using the wrong word with regard to masks or coming to school and not control can set off a whole chain of misunderstanding. So, we'd be very, and we did this in a couple other districts too, including Bullitt, where we guided their reopening communication. I'm gonna take this one.
So all of this that you guys started just a few short months ago, January 10th, has really led to already increased support from the community. You know, our philosophy is communication, build relationships, which build trust and lead to support. Pretty simple, but getting out there and making sure you're communicating. You know, as Ryan mentioned, people don't read. They don't read the serious stuff. They like the fun stuff. So we do a lot of short articles on fun, successful things. Those are the kind of things that are going to catch attention. And when necessary, we can use other pieces like the graphics in order to increase that engagement. So that's the kind of thing that we talk about when we say that we like to go from a strategic place where we're really thinking through how does this information need to be communicated so that it is going to reach and be consumed by people in an appropriate way. With the websites, we, because of COVID, we are still flushing out some of the schools, but they have the opportunity to go in and create their own tabs or tell us, you know, we can figure out together what kind of tabs they want in there. I talked with Jennifer today about switching up what's under curriculum and improving that. So, you know, these are very responsive and adaptive to what the principals or the department heads want them to say.
Can I add something on the website too, is, we are happy to, for any of the schools, do any work on the website that they need us to do. I've communicated that to all the principals, but, you know, this week was kind of short notice out here, but we'd also love to do training with every school like we did with Swiss Hills, so that if they want something up quickly, they have the capability to do that without waiting.
Yeah, the net of all this is that you are directing your conversation. And we all know in today's social media world, if you are not talking about yourself, they're going to talk about you. And they're going to talk about you whether you're talking about yourself or not. But you need to be putting out there what you want people to know and understand. And then the rest becomes noise versus the story. So, you know, we've seen, as Ryan said, with the open and the click rates in this district are phenomenal. You know, 7.5% average overall, and that is specifically for K-12 education. So to get the kind of click rates that you guys have, it really does show that people want this information. They're looking for it, and they're looking at it. Really, really cool. So this year, we are continuing. Yeah, let me talk about this a little bit more. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very cost-effective way to get these kinds of programs out there. Because we do this all the time, it takes us less time, allows us to reduce the cost. Your people are focused on education. They're focused on their expertise. And when you look at, you know, if you were even to hire somebody, you're talking salary, retirement benefits, et cetera, management costs. So, you know, this is something that we can do almost turnkey. The process is really simple. You know, a principal or somebody the principal identifies can give us story ideas and say, okay, you know, you need to contact Sarah and ask her about this. And we can do that, get the story, get it written. So, you know, it takes it off of your school personnel.
So this year. We started the district newsletter a couple of weeks ago. We've done 2 so far. And we have we've done 1, and tomorrow's the second. 45% open rate, 23% click rate. So still seeing great success there. And then we have 2 schools that we're working with, Monroe Central and Swift Hills. They, once again, have fantastic numbers. Monroe Central, 54% open rate, 34% click rate. Swift Hills, 52 and 23. So people are still engaged, even though they're now back in school, most of them. And we will continue to watch that, see what kind of stories they're clicking on, and as I said, adapt.
And one thing I'd say too about both schools, although, we just came back, but one thing at Monroe Central that is great is that Joe is so engaged and enthusiastic in this process. And so are his teachers. And so they are, I was in there today and they have all of these ideas and stories they want in there. And so we're getting like really compelling stuff for them. And I think it makes the content more interesting, which drives this engagement among the audience.
It definitely does, and there are great district articles as well. In fact, we have 2 from Larry already that we'll be using in upcoming weeks, and some stuff that Jennifer and I talked about. And there's so many great things happening in this district. You guys need to be talking about them. They're unique, they're fun, and they're good for students. So. We also have a lot of other services that we can offer. We kind of talked about them briefly up front, but just wanted to let you know, staff communications programs. Those are a great way to make sure that your staff are all getting the same information at the same time. And, newsletters, once again, a real simple tool, can be done in a wide variety of ways. One district we work with is using it to support their strategic plan and communicate about specific aspects of their strategic plan once a month. Another district is using it to go through all of the departments and just give an update on the department. Lots of things you can do. Thought Exchange, Bob mentioned Thought Exchange briefly. It's a unique survey tool that gives you qualitative info, really, really rich data at quantitative levels. And it's a neat way, it's kind of like a focus group, except that it takes away all of the bad parts of the focus group, all of the dominating by certain personalities and, all of the focus on a couple of ideas. So it really opens things up and lots of great data there. We also work with...
Andrea, I'd point out this is an example where that's a very expensive technology. We purchase it, you get to use it for next to nothing as we distribute that across all the schools.
What is it for a district-wide license? Like
About $25,000 a year.
Because we have a full ability there. A plain way of saying it is that, you've probably seen this on Facebook. There are a few people who kind of dominate the comments of the conversation. And so it makes it seem like that's what everyone thinks. Then you use this and you see, okay, that's not what everyone thinks. Those are just the loudest people in the room.
Yeah, it's and that's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a way to neutralize those loud voices and really let you see what's important.
Yeah.
And act on what's important. It's also great if you have polarized views in the community. There are lots of great things for it, so we can talk about that another time. We also have a relationship with a quantitative survey company that they do amazing work at very, very low rates. So, that's another option. Quality profiles. We do those kinds of things, or other brochures, any kind of collateral pieces. Media services, we can do PR for you. Videography, graphic design, enhanced social media, and then if you're ever on the ballot, we can do ballot support either with the district to get the factual information out. Did that a couple years ago with a district outside of Columbus. They didn't even know how to organize their data and their information to give it to their levy committee. So we came in and wrote everything for them, which gave them, the levy committee, all that material that they could then take and, so, lots of different options. And as a, to reiterate, this is a partnership. What you are trying to do here, what we are trying to help you do here is build that relationship, that partnership with your community. It is not us versus them. It is always us with them. And that's what a strong communications program can do for you. Is this questions, comments?
Okay. Yeah, no, we appreciate you having us here.
Thank you, guys.
Grab a computer and get out of your way. Thanks, all.
Take care, all.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of number 2 under new business, right? And
Actual, they presented to you. Well, it's up to you, but we had put it on there to approve them as an approved vendor for us. They have more services than what we use.
so you're just looking for approval to continue with what you've been.
Well, so there's questions about seeing multiple requisitions with them, purchase orders with them. So we're using different kind of modules with them because they have these subset companies under them. So that's why we presented tonight. I don't know if that's the way you want to look at it. But for transparency reasons, it looks like a lot is going to one company, but they're a managing company with a lot of module companies under them that we're using them for solutions, educational solutions, using them for communication. So we put it on there for transparency.
That's appreciated.
Well, I got a question then. They say keeping costs low. How low are we keeping it? How much is it costing us?
They actually gave us a rebate this past time. I'm not going to answer an amount this time because I don't have it in front of me, but I'll bring that back to you.
Well, how am I going to vote on something if you don't give me a contract or tell me how much it's going to cost me?
I'm asking you to vote. They're an approved vendor that we can look at them.
Well, I'm not going to approve them. Not this guy, because I knew I didn't think he would, because it seems like we're getting everyone outside here all connected, and we're putting everything out, and if we didn't have money, they wouldn't be here. If we didn't have this money in this district, they wouldn't be here. And we're in contract negotiations with everybody, and we want to build onto our schools and all this. Money ain't going to last forever, people. I'm telling you.
Is there another way that we can do what they're doing? Like, we don't have that kind of a...
Well, our principals and teachers are doing the communication letters like River, Belleville. They're doing it themselves. They didn't want this service. The only one that wanted the service is Monroe Central, I believe.
Swiss Hills is central office.
And central office. They're the ones that wanted it, and I guess they got it because we didn't have to vote on it.
I wanted to do it for central office because I want other schools to be able to tag on it if and when needed.
Yeah,
They're out and about,
but
not just,
is it true?
not just here, they're out and about in other buildings. That's what they've been doing here.
Is it true that the principals and the teachers gather all their information, the pictures and everything, and send it to this company. And all they're doing is putting it
They were
together.
in here today. They were here for 2
They've
days.
been here for 2 days, going out and interviewing and taking pictures of
And,
people.
and previously it was?
And they have done that before too. Now,
Sometimes
they're interviewing the folks who run the activity. So if the activity already happened and a teacher took the picture and it's a quality picture, pictures enhance the article. So, do they submit pictures? I submit pictures. I submitted pictures to them yesterday from when there were students in the laboratory that weren't there at the time they were here, but then they have to get the information and do it like she's doing for us tonight. So pictures are submitted to the paper sometimes, right? That might be of quality to use. That's the same principle as what this company does for us.
See, that's why I'd like to open this meeting up instead of here. I like to have a meeting somewhere and know what we're talking about, and now I can listen to people back there that in school and let them tell me, yeah, this is true or it ain't true. I don't know what's true and what's not here. But we can vote on it tonight, it doesn't matter. Oh.
Who's bigger?
You, I heard you. Phone.
That wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
That was your phone.
You sure?
Yeah. I was just checking it even.
Well, mine either. You better check.
Let's go. Let's move on. I don't want to be here all night.
Okay.
Well, I think there's a good.
Do you want a motion on the floor? Put it on.
Well, I'm trying to say something.
Oh.
I think this is a good idea to have the whole district as one. Like I thought that's what we, as a board and with admin, were striving for. Without, like they said, without taking their individualism and their branding. We don't want that. We don't want everybody to gel. We do want everybody to gel, but allow them to point out their own indistinct colors and achievements. And I mean, do you not think that that's a good way to go?
I'm not saying that, Terry. I just feel, ever since I've been coming to these meetings 5, 6 years now, and once they found out we got money, they just come every meeting, and we sat here for a half hour, an hour, listen to them all the time. Everybody's wanting a piece of the pie. When in the past, we did it ourselves. The teachers and the principals did it. So because we got money, everybody wants to come down and get a piece of pie. That's fine if you agree with it.
They didn't come to us. I reached out to them to bring us a solution, an educational solution when we were problem solving. We needed help. We need a common tone. There is a commonality that I hear all the time about the separations between our buildings. And through research, one of those ways, and they said it tonight in their presentation, both groups, Dr. Summers and the communications group also said it, that one way you can bring that back together is through communication. And you were doing it, but we were separated. So if we were to problem solve, sometimes we can bring in a professional who's trained to do this and help lead us to bring that back. So that solution was from them. Also, our principals are worked hard, especially in a pandemic like this. And once again, they made the point to you that they can take some of that load of that professional communications off of that principal and allow them to focus on things like moving the targets for educational, the educational piece for our students. That was why I reached out to look for a solution to help move targets for us. And through research, it says communications is important. There's all kinds of data out there that shows that having that tone of a message for your district that is equal in the buildings equalizes it for everyone, so that maybe there's not competition going on between our buildings, but we are one district.
That being said, from what, and I'm not familiar with this at all, just what I've heard the last couple of meetings. I can hear what you're saying is, I'm just talking in general, not for or against it or anything. Grove Central, Swiss Hills, and Central Office are involved, Belleville and River are not. So in just my thinking, is, it's not the right fit because we're not all on board together.
And I'm not saying it's because of the company or what they're doing.
If we're trying to gel and not everybody's on board, then it's not working. You understand what I'm saying?
They chose not to.
I understand that, so it's not working in terms of us trying to gel as a district. If there's another solution, I honestly can't sit here and say, yeah, I'm for this because, as Sarah mentioned, we want to try to gel as a district, but I'm also saying that I don't fully understand it either. I'm not educated enough on what exactly they're really going to make this big difference. I listened to the presentation. I was mostly confused. I was reading through this. I was listening to that. Then I find out that somebody's not on board. So to me, and I always relate things back to sports, if you're playing a game and somebody doesn't like the game plan and doesn't execute his or her position properly, it doesn't work. I don't care how you look at it. But I'm not trying to be negative in terms of what you're saying. I'm just trying to make sense of the situation. So I don't feel comfortable, to be honest with you, because I don't feel like everybody's together. That's my 2 cents.
Ronnie, this is being paid out of the general fund, right, for central office, Monroe Central? Good. I have no more comments. Anybody else?
So how are we going to take care of our
How are we
community?
gonna take care of it? You can ask for a motion if you want.
No, I'll finish if you'll let me.
Okay.
How are we going to continue now with our community communications? They maintained the Facebook page, answered comments and questions. They got the newsletters together for 2 of the schools. Rob wants to add central office. I mean, do we just stop communicating with those? I think it was a pretty valuable tool to have.
I want to tell you, Sarah, we communicated before we even had these people, so.
How did we do that?
Sarah, if you recall, a couple of years back, we hired a lot of people in this district. Ms. Brill, Linda, they were supposed to make things better for us. All they're doing is bringing more and more in to take the workload off or something. I don't get it.
So how does that answer my question, Jerry?
I'm not answering your question.
I know.
I'm telling you. But I just don't agree with keep spending money on stuff. I don't do it. I just can't agree with it.
Do you feel like we have a need to communicate with our communities? Like all of them, not just?
Yes. But there again, like Greg said, everybody ain't on board, so.
Yeah, I'm not against the whole process.
Exactly. I don't know how we get on board.
Yeah,
when...
I'm against the issue that we not are. I don't know if there's a different approach, a different company, I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's not for me to decide. But it bothers me that, and I'm not hearing things, no one's telling me just from what I heard right here, just based on saying that Belleville and River are doing their own thing.
They showed you incredible, those are absolutely incredible, because I did those same statistics for Ohio State University. Nowhere near the click rates that you have for this district. Your district's on board, your principals may not be. So why?
I get
The
I
question
can't
answer
answer
is why.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't think you can answer that question. But I'd like for it to be answered.
Why don't you put a survey out to each school and see what each school like?
See what they like.
I mean, if somebody
Give the teachers, principals, just see. Maybe they do
why
like
they're not on board and what the solution is. I mean, again, I think the easiest solution to anything is ask a question. If you don't get the answer, then something has to change. You understand what I'm saying? Like some person, some view, something has to work. Because you know as well as I do, if one person is against it, it just, for some reason, it just doesn't work fully so the way you expect it to work. Again, I'm not against the process. I'm uncomfortable with how it's happening.
But the principals used to put newsletters out and everything else.
Do they have time? I mean, their point was that by them doing that for them, the principals have time to do the educational piece that they need to do.
Grades we have.
He just showed you how Stevensville's grades were. What are they doing we aren't doing?
We got 5 years before we can
Okay.
make any changes.
We have 5 years before we can make any before we can make any changes.
Before we miss the bow hatch, it takes 5 years to see if this is working.
Hey, let's go
So
on.
if it doesn't work, you know, then
I
wait
should even
for 5
comment.
years. We can't make no changes.
So the communications piece was 2 and 3 of new business.
Mm-hmm.
2 and 3, so 3 is, we have a lot of, new career tech teachers, and they're not teachers when they, most of the time when we have them, they're not teachers, they're industry people we're bringing in, and, they're earning their educational license while they work for us. So they showed you that they have a lot of products, and, the second piece of that is we'd like to bring in a mentor to work for our career tech, because being a career tech teacher is an academic teacher. There's a lot more, of a learning curve of things that they were responsible for. We need assistance because of the amount of them that we've brought in. So we would like to use one of their educational solutions to be able to do that. So that is number 3. Number 2 is for transparency. That's completely up to you. 3 is an action item that, or an MOU that is attached, that, is something. I don't want to go get it for you.
Hey, there's that on wrong.
Well, you know, it was sent to be attached.
Yeah.
Or if you have it in email, just shoot it out to us and we can open it.
Hey, I think Zach Kelsey's here. Why don't we ask him what he thinks about it? I think he does his own newsletter.
Oh.
Making sure.
do we want to go on and discuss the, I think there was a truck next, and then come back to the MOU? Oh, you sent it? Okay. Are you guys able to open your email on your?
On my phone.
Okay.
Pick them up. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Same thing you were looking at over there, I thought it would be easier.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Ryan, they work together on the website.
As the Swiss Hills Director, Dr. Unger, what are your thoughts on the, potential mentoring for your teachers?
For technical teachers, you know, what this person would do would be something similar to what they do with RESA, with their regular ed teachers, where they can help them along and get their lessons, get their license and pedagogy and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's valuable to them to have a person that can work with them individually and getting all those things together that they need to get their license.
How many of our career tech teachers don't have a license?
Well, they have a license, but they have to go through a program for years before it becomes a permanent type license.
Okay.
I know how many I've got in my building. I've got two.
Three, four,
How many you have?
I've got two.
There's 5 that are out, there are probably a handful that we need assistance to them that way back in the day, matter of fact, their licenses are all vocational that aren't even in play anymore. That, so how many do you have?
Sportsmen people, they need to work with them as far as getting their license. I've got two, my auto tech teacher, he's been in industry and he's moving in. Sam, who is our manufacturing person.
Actually, it's everyone in your building.
They could assist everyone in the building, but in particular those that are new.
Because you don't know this, but some of them are new within the last 2 years, and they didn't get any assistance.
So there are a lot of needs with pedagogy and so on. Don't have, because they come in with expertise in the field.
Right.
For instance, my manufacturing person worked with Colgate and knows everything there is about PCLs and all the machinery side as far as working with kids and teaching it. Yeah.
So you can't help them?
Oh, I can too, but,
I do every.
yeah, we do all the time.
I know you can, but you want us to hire someone else out to do it for you, right?
not necessarily to do it for me, it's to help them and get through the process of
Our
providing the
academic teachers sit under RESA. They are assigned a mentor for this very same reason. It happens right now, it's happening with a boatload of, we pay money for it, stipends for it. It's part of the negotiated contract right now. Our CPE teachers, this district has not done a good job in the past. So if we move targets, one of the targets is to provide tools to the teachers so that they can do their job. This is a tool to help them be the teachers that we need them to be. There is no assistant principal out there. There is as many kids sitting in his building as there are some of your high schools.
And what it's doing is giving the same support your academic teachers are already for a career technical.
Mentors.
Yep, it's a mentorship to become a teacher. The Route B teachers, these industry route teachers that we hire, are learning to be a teacher while they are working. It's like going to college on the side while you're working a full-time job.
Can we bring Zach Calvin in and see why he don't need it, sir?
Because he doesn't have career tech teachers. They're talking about.
Oh, this is the other one,
Yeah.
okay, I'm talking about the other.
Yeah.
This is a mentor.
Let's get that off his brain.
No,
We're talking about, I thought we was still on the newsletter.
No, we're not, no.
We're not on the.
We're past
Our
that.
whole
Yeah.
conversation about,
Yeah, I've been listening to it.
But, okay, if we have regular teachers, we have mentors for them, that they're
Yeah.
teachers,
Yeah,
then a career tech, why can't you have a career tech teacher be a mentor?
because we don't have one that can do that right now.
Oh, people can't do that?
Oh, Ronnie, come on.
No, seriously,
When
no.
they are still trying to get their license, they are in the mentorship
I know, but
program.
don't we have some that has their license?
Which one?
Huh?
Which one?
I don't know, I said, I'm
Just
not,
give me one, you know the teachers.
I
Give me
know,
one, and I'll go ask them.
I shouldn't have to ask them. I don't know who.
Just give me one of those teachers that you think can have this extra time, be a mentor to all of our career tech teachers that we have.
I don't know who the oldest one is out there.
The oldest one?
Has been there the longest.
well,
That's not
even
how we normally select, those who run the mentorship program, but,
how do you with the academic mentoring?
well,
Do
they have to be able to have that time to follow, yeah, they have to be trained. It's not, you just pick your senior person
Okay, well, I know they gotta
and
be
do
trained.
it. There's a training, there's, oh my Lord, the documentation that goes along with it.
Be very valuable to those teachers and give them an extra level of support, help as they need it.
Purpose is to improve our teachers and to give them that resource so they have the tools to be able to do what they need.
Any more questions?
No, I haven't.
Or what do you think?
You know, I understand the
Equal to
mentorship.
what we're doing.
We're still back on the whole thing of people were talking about. Still says to me, that's with everything. As far as mentorship, yeah, you know, sure, that's important. It's required, I'm sure, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And, you know, I certainly understand what Ronnie's trying to say, is that you have somebody internally can do it, but if you don't, I don't know that.
That's why we brought it to you.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know.
That's why we brought it to you. Now, if you can speak up a little bit through your mask. Good, thank you.
Live,
Don't shoot the messenger.
public.
You guys have any more comments or questions? Because I'm ready to move.
No, I'm just saying, the same guy here that we're hiring is the one we had before that come in here and evaluate our principals, right?
I think so.
He started, it never finished, about the code.
But we still paid him, right? What he did?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, get the score on, I'm sorry.
Were you making a point? Or did you have a question on that?
No, just go on. I just wanted to make sure that was the same one that would come in here and evaluated our principals And I voted no on it too, so. I'm just curious.
Well, Rob, how do you feel about the mentoring for your CT?
I think it would be good for our CTE teachers. I think, and it would take a lot of, I mean, if we have other teachers out there trying to do it that have never done it, it's gonna take time away from what they need to be doing. I mean, this guy's good at it. I think it'd be well worth
it. Dean's Fraser.
He did evaluate the principals, but he also did some professional development and mentoring with them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And
There's
so,
still a request to continue.
okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this contract as presented, this MOU, sorry. All right, I'll take that as the motion died for lack of second, but I'd like to point out, Rob, I believe that is below your threshold. If you feel that is a good tool, I believe that is within your spending.
Yes, I know. Okay. But we wanted to be transparent.
I appreciate that.
Aware.
And the presentation and putting you on the spot. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Appreciate the input. 4, district replacement vehicle from Knowlton Ford.
Who's this one for?
That's, maintenance, fine.
Okay.
Jason, is that for that's maintenance, correct?
The truck.
The new vehicle,
Yes, that's a replacement for a maintenance vehicle.
for a maintenance van?
Yes, one of the
That's what I thought,
vehicles,
yeah.
yes.
I'll make a
That had
motion.
200 and some thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the note to it, it's over $225,000, and we put several $100s in here a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure that it's gonna need that, it's gonna need more of that here coming.
I'll make a motion, we approve it. Corny, I vote yes, it's gonna kill.
Gary, is yours not working either?
Yeah, it didn't come on.
Okay, how do you want?
Yeah, it's up.
Okay. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes.
Thank you.
All right, approval of ELA materials for grades K through 2nd.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Voting is open.
Yes.
Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. And number 6 is discussion and approval of 4 additional behavioral therapist positions paid through the Student Wellness and Success Fund.
We talked about this long enough, I make a motion, we approve.
I second.
We need them.
Voting is open.
I vote yes, it didn't come no.
I don't know why it's not coming up.
Yep.
I got it. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Motion carries. And number 7 is the discussion of the greenhouses for 3 schools. I'll make a motion to approve the greenhouses.
I wanna
Oh.
say that I'm not against the greenhouses, but I'm against the size and the cost. The amount of students using them, I think we could downsize quite a bit and still benefit the children. I just think it's way too much money for this, and the size is way too big. They got one at River, and works fine down there, ain't half the size of that.
The one at Woodsfield and Monroe is being shared by two programs. And then their commercial greenhouses, which is the technical skill that is taught through the Career Tech program.
I think the one at River was built with donation money too.
And grant, there was some grant money
A
as
little
well.
bit of grant money in
And
there,
it's not a commercial house.
right, and that's what I'm saying, I don't know that we can justify spending that much money for the amount of use we're gonna get out. I mean, I'd be willing on looking into smaller ones, less expensive ones, but to me, it's a lot of money.
Well, actually, that's the maximum price, because a lot of that could be reduced if our students are construction trade students.
Then show me the contract where it's gonna be reduced, and I'll be more than glad to vote for it.
The reason why he told you it wasn't. is
I understand what he said, but like he said they put down the worst case scenario. And usually everything, always goes over 10%, so you can add on top of that about another 10 to 20%. That's common in the industry.
Smaller as in all of them?
Yeah,
Or any
down
certain
some,
one?
yeah.
Like, I mean, the one on the Woodfield campus is gonna be
Has to be
utilized
double.
by Woodfield Elementary and,
That's fine.
Monroe Central.
And these programs are growing. The only one that's small is Belleville.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The other programs,
I
the
can't.
size is adjusted for the growth in those programs right now.
I guess Swiss Hills is busting the doors down too, right? For
Swiss Hills has had growth.
I know.
We're full, we have
Yeah.
nowhere to go there.
Okay.
So,
My opinion only, please. Let's move on.
How did you determine the size of the greenhouses?
Standard size for a school greenhouse, and a program, and agricultural program. You want one that's large enough that you can do some of the commercial activities, smaller size. If you're looking at a true commercial greenhouse, you're looking at a minimum of 30 by 96 is where they start out, and then they usually multiple bays. So this is a one bay, 30 by 60 is the big one, 30 by 48 is the smaller one. Only a couple $1,000 difference between a 30 by 48 and a 30 by 60. Because you got your heating, your ventilation, your shade costs, your automation equipment, that's all the same no matter what size your greenhouse is.
So you're telling me that it would be the same cost to heat a bigger one versus a smaller one?
I'm
Or
not
to cool it?
talking about the cost.
I'm saying the cost afterward.
Now,
We're talking initial cost, and now you're talking, it ain't gonna cost that much, and I know for a fact that it'll cost more for heat and everything else.
Yeah, what I was referring to was the equipment that was in the greenhouse. Your furnace,
Yeah.
your distribution tube, and all that stuff's the same, no matter what size it is. It's gonna be real similar in cost. So if you shrink it down, structure-wise, your cost isn't gonna be a whole lot different. Now, your operation costs and paying for your propane and stuff like that, it would be more for a larger greenhouse.
Thank you.
You're correct. But with a facility with one this size, you could actually put aquaculture tanks in there, so you could do some raising of fish and stuff along with your plants, so on. And you would be able to do some collaboration with your biology department. They could have a section of it if they wanted to do some experimental genetics and stuff. You could do multiple things in one greenhouse. It gets small, and it gets difficult to do those things. Plus, this structure is it's a pre-engineered structure that's built and it's going to be there for a while. It's not just a cheap the way the tobacco plants or something like that.
Can we table this till next meeting? Can we? Can we check into something on? Okay.
It's cousin approval. We can do anything you want. I don't care.
What information are you needing? Like,
I'd like to check other schools and that. If that's all right, we can go ahead and,
I can give you a list of schools that have facilities similar to this. Leesburg Fairfield has one similar to this. Versailles, has one similar to this.
The same one, you have the same one.
Canal Winchester, has one that's similar to this. Pretty much kind of a standard type thing. And these, you look between the manufacturers, their structures are very similar in how they look. 10-foot E heights, I mean, you could drop it to 8 foot, but then that's not going to get you cost savings.
Is this the only company that makes them?
There's 3 companies there,
Did you get 3 different bids?
3 different bids. This is actually the middle bid. The middle bid. The high one, which was Brow Brothers, they were $150 a square foot. That's just completely out of the. They're building stuff like Ameriflora, I think Columbus and Central Ohio State is what they do, so they're way out of range. I think their prices for both all 3 are on your agenda item.
well, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead with the purchase of the greenhouses as proposed.
I'll second.
abstain.
Yes.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Duff,
No.
Mr. Winkler.
Abstain.
Well, that brings us to 8. Discussion and approval of additional full-time employee at Swiss Hills for the automotive and diesel transportation instructor.
We needed it last year, and I think we need it this year. I'll make a motion, we do it.
I second. Sure, that last one, that 2-1, is that a?
It failed.
Fail, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
lack of support.
Thank you.
You ought to be proud of that.
What's your problem, young lady?
You don't want to know right now. I'll be glad to talk it with you later.
Okay, we'll bring it on.
Come on, let's go on with our meeting, please.
Winkler,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Shoemaker, Smith,
Yes. Motion carries. Number 9, approval of September financial reports. Well, we might as well go on because this can't pass. I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports.
Second.
everybody in favor? Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Duff,
Abstain.
Mr. Winkler.
Abstain.
Yep.
Maybe you guys shouldn't vote on anything when it comes to money if you don't want to support the financial.
I can't because most of the time my daughter's on it. Reason why.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. I
Yeah.
cannot vote to take
My
it.
brother teaches at Swiss Hill. So, Mark,
Uh,
what does it matter as far as?
I told-
Maybe you should have nothing to do with money when it comes to anything no vote if you're not gonna support our district. That's ridiculous.
I'm just
sorry.
telling you, Greg, I was
You're
told not to vote on it.
You're
I
a board
come from
member
the lawyer.
who said got 7,000 votes and you're for the community. Why are you voting for this stuff? I don't
Listen to
understand.
me, let me tell you what, the lawyer, whenever I got in here, he's the one that said I should abstain on any
I'd love to hear,
financial.
who, your lawyer or our lawyer?
Kevin Locke.
I'd love to hear him say that out of his mouth.
I got a paper, I'll
I'd
bring
love
it
to
and show
see
you.
it.
I'll bring
I
it
do
and show
not
you.
understand that whatsoever.
We're gonna move on
Let's
with
move on.
public participation. Rob?
Unbelievable.
Connie?
No,
You're
I have
You're
none.
a joke.
We're done with public participation, and we're moving to executive session, and I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the consideration of the appointment, employment, did you say wait?
Yeah, it's, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Sir, which one is this gonna be? Mr. Housley?
I don't know if we lost internet
Yes.
or... Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back on.
Okay, for the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
So moved. Second.
Voting is open. Mr. Baker? Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Let the record show we're adjourning to executive session at 10 after 9. You want to stay in here, Rob, or do you want to, all kinds of buttons? It was blinking.
All right, we're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Still line.
Thanks, Tess. All right, I'd like to call this meeting back to order. And I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for preparing, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and condition of employment. And I think I just read the wrong one. Hold on.
Hey,
Okay, it's the same.
that's right.
It's in a row. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting is open.
I vote yes.
There?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
If you get to me, I'll vote yes.
There, you're good, okay, I got you.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Motion carries. Let the record show we are adjourning to executive session at 9:42.
So moved.
Second.
Voting is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes. Motion carried. Let the record show we're adjourning to executive session at 8:55. You are unmuted, Rob.
Okay, you're good.
Good.
We're good. Thanks, Dave.
All right, I'm going to press the button.
Oh, I remember.
Tell me when time.
Cameron.
All right, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Let the record show that at 11:20 we reconvened into open session. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session. We're at 7, right?
Yes.
to adjourn for investigation or charges of or complaints against a public employee, official license, licensee, or student.
So moved.
Oh, signed it for, I thought you wanted that.
Employee spelled wrong one. Employee is stuff or something. That's what I was giggling about.
Okay, voting is open.
I vote yes.
Okay. Chair? Yes. Or you want to vote yes? It's not going.
Yeah, it just went.
Okay, I got it now. All right. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Motion carries. Let the record show that at 11:21, we reconvene to executive session.
My daughters are waiting on me.
Oh, my God. It's
You guys are good.
Thank you, Taz.
Hey, George, did he report tonight? I didn't hear
Hey,
him.
Yes.
hey, Jerry, we're live.
Okay, 2 little lines. I got it. Ready.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Let the record show that we reconvene to open session at 11:39. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the consideration of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, and we may need to wait until Greg is here. I apologize.
He's here.
Hurry up and sit down. I just said I need a motion for the executive session for blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's on your 9 on your.
Number 9,
agenda.
I make a motion, make a motion. For number 9, go to executive session.
Second.
Open.
I voted
That's cool.
yes.
I'm in policy, and my box came up.
Oh, really? We're on yes?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes. Oh, motion carries. Let the record show that at 11:40, we are
You are. Okay, you are live.
You're alive.
No, it's,
All right.
Can you sign on from somewhere else? Can I give you mine?
maybe it won't be, oh.
You want me to wait or start? Oh, my goodness. I was looking up something from a different meeting, so I'm in that agenda now.
Well, it is completely, I mean, you threw me out of Word doc. Off the internet and everything. That's just so nice.
You're fine. Okay, you ready, Rob? All right. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Let the record show that at 12:47, a.m., we reconvene to open session. We are at the treasurer's report.
The only item that I have is the $2,000 grant that you approved back in the consent agenda. Set up the account file report with the county auditor.
Well, I got a question. When can we expect the 5-year forecast to be put on the webpage?
It will be approved at the next board meeting.
Thank you. That didn't come from me, it was somebody called me and asked me. I looked it up, I didn't see it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it has to be approved by the end of November now. So it'll be at the next.
I made the motion.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Motion carries, and that brings us to personnel. Does anybody need anything pulled out, or?
No, I don't.
Is it okay to do them all together? I'll make a motion that we approve all of personnel.
I'll second. Greg seconded.
Voting is open.
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Having no other business to come before us, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Now the big red one.
The big one, yes.
Although I paused it. I paused it, so now I'm still,
So it should be saving, it'll save now. Happy birthday, Rob.
Thanks.
yep, happy birthday yesterday, Rob.
Thank you.
Yesterday?
What's that?
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, it's yesterday. It was, an hour ago. It was my birthday.
And the daughter, wait,